What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Friday, January 19th, 2024, and we are back with another weekly live stream here on the Touring Rain Reloaded channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are new, hit the bell twice to be notified whenever I upload a new video or go live. Hit that like button, hit that share button. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat so far. I will acknowledge you momentarily. Shout out to everybody who sends me all kinds of stories, whether it's on Discord, on Twitter, on Instagram, all of that good stuff. Shout out to everybody who is on a patron on Patreon. If you are, you received a new video today. Shout out to all of the members as well. We have a lot of stories. Y'all, these topics, I only had 5 initially, but so much stuff happened between the time that I had the original 5, because if you can look at the title, those were the only topics initially that I had for the day. But so much stuff has come out since then that the topics literally like doubled, almost tripled. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So this is going to be a pretty lengthy stream. I hope y'all have as much time to engage as I will for the next probably hour and a half. I'm gonna be honest with you. This stream is probably gonna run for like a good hour and a half. So I hope y'all got some time. And if not, that's okay. You can catch the playback at your convenience. But let me go ahead now and acknowledge those who are in the chat right now. We got Hack Sign KT, Black Spider, Jerome, Albert Nelson, Joseph Washington, Denise Scales, James Antithesis, Blacklight Revelations 2, RDRD, C. Russell, Donna C, SD Johnson, 857, Tatum Mann, Letitia, Rachel Marin, Jennifer Wade, DSM Sinister, Tamika's Den, Melrose Radio, Wesley Pipes, what a name, Wallow J, Cosmo Fury, Tildog 12, Joy 31608, Jonathan Richardson. What's going on? So, like I said, we have a lot of stuff to discuss today. I hope everybody is staying warm. It snowed again here today. It snowed here again today. We had snow a couple days ago, and it snowed here again today. So winter is officially here in the DMV. But I hope everybody is staying warm as possible, especially after a couple of days ago. It was absolutely freezing. I think this is probably the most time I probably stayed indoors. It was so cold and the snow was so crazy the other day. I ended up calling out of work. And then to find out that some of my coworkers did when I went in yesterday, I was like, now I don't feel so bad. But they said there was a lot of people who called off, but it is what it is. Safety first. But other than that, I'm glad that everybody is doing well so far, because it's some people out there that are not. And some of them people we're going to be talking about today in this stream. Now, usually what I'll do is I will wait until 6:10 to go ahead and get started, because I have so much to talk about and I want to actually make an announcement at the end. I'm going to just go ahead and get started now. If you miss whatever it is that I'm talking about, then, you'll have to catch it on the playback. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. Now, usually, as y'all know, I always like to say that I want to start off my live streams with any type of Black excellence story that's out there. But this week, it wasn't any, but unfortunately, it was some actual shocking, and it could have turned a whole nother way. When I found out about this, I said, I have to throw this in there. And that is the topic of Snoop Dogg's daughter, Corey Broadus, who at the age of 24, only 24 years old, found out she suffered a severe stroke. When I found that out, I said, that is crazy. It's crazy how a lot of the things that are the ailments that a lot of people at one time you felt like you had to be older to have, they're getting younger and younger. And now I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but also Michael Strahan's daughter, she suffered like a brain tumor. I think she had a brain tumor. Some of you may have seen the pictures or the videos when she was being interviewed. I think she's better now, but she had to go through the chemotherapy and radiation, all of that, to get it removed. But now, follow up now with this. So this is just actually just crazy. Because when I first saw the email, because shout out to Lisa Cabrera because she sent it to me, I'm thinking that it was announcing that she got married because I knew she had got engaged. But when I saw this, I said I wasn't expecting to hear this. So it says Corey Broadus, the daughter of rapper and actor Snoop Dogg and his wife Shantae Taylor Broadus, revealed on social media Thursday that she suffered a severe stroke. Broadus, age 24, shared the message in an Instagram story. I had a severe stroke this AM, read the post, including 2 teary-eyed emojis. I started breaking down crying when they told me, the caption concluded. Broadus posted another image on her Instagram story afterwards. Like, I'm only 24. What did I do in my past to deserve all of this? Read the caption in the second photo. Each year, 10 to 15% of the nearly 795,000 people in the United States who have a stroke are between the ages of 18 and 45, according to the American Heart Association. Despite a decline in the general population, stroke rates and hospitalizations for it have increased by more than 40% among younger adults in the past several decades. In 2021, Broadus revealed in an Instagram post that she had been diagnosed with lupus at 6 years old. Something says she ultimately contributed to poor mental health. I grew up with 2 light-skinned brothers, and I was the only chocolate one. I was overweight. I got lupus at 6, so I was overweight from being on steroids, and that automatically messed with my health. People looked at me like I was an alien, Broadus said at the time. According to the Lupus Foundation of America, lupus is a chronic long-term disease that can cause inflammation and pain in any part of your body. It's an autoimmune disease, which means your immune system, the body system that usually fights infections, attacks healthy tissue instead. The LFA also notes lupus increases your risk for heart disease. Lupus can impact several areas of the body, including the skin, digestive system, kidneys, muscles, tendons, nervous system, and the heart, according to the LFA. I actually went to school with somebody, to college with somebody that I know personally who had lupus, and the way that the effects that it had on them is that they would get red patches on the palm of their hands. It was so wild to look at. Like, she posted up pictures on Facebook at the time because we were still in school when this was going on, and you can actually see the red patches on her skin. It looked like somebody took a maroon colored magic marker and just scribbled spots on the palms of her hands. And in case y'all also didn't know, I'm going to be talking about Michael Jackson a little bit later in this, but since this is the topic, a lot of people didn't know this, is that Michael Jackson, he suffered from lupus as well. I think he got diagnosed with lupus back in the early 80s, right around the time he was doing in the Thriller area. A lot of people didn't know that until his autopsy had came out when he had passed. But I had knew about it way before then. But yeah, this is unfortunate that this is happening to her like I said, it's such a young age. And I can't even imagine how scary that was for her to be in that hospital and then to find out that's what she suffered from, because apparently it sounds like to me she didn't even know until they told her. So, that's scary. And they said it was a severe stroke, not a mild one, a severe one. So she went right past mild and went to severe. For all we know, she could have had a mild stroke, but just didn't know. Tildar said, I lost 2 high school classmates to lupus. Is not a game. Just look at Trick Daddy. Jennifer said, one of my exes has lupus. He said it is painful. I can't even imagine. And good point that you made, Herbert Scott. He said Bronny had a cardiac arrest at 19. Yep, I remember that. See, a lot, like I said, people are getting these diseases and these health scares younger and younger nowadays. It's getting real scary out here. All I'm gonna say is that just be careful out here. Try to be as healthy and active as possible, but sometimes that's not even enough because it's just something that just happens. You can be as healthy as a horse and it can still happen. It's just how your body functions. That's just how it is. And sometimes it could be a hereditary thing. Somewhere in her family, it could be a history of people who have lupus, or maybe people who have strokes. That's one thing. When they go to the doctor, they'll always ask you, do you have a history of this in your family? Do you have a history of that in your family? That way, if they can detect it, that way they can detect something early on as a trait. Like for me, for instance, I actually just got my physical done, and I have the anemic trait in my family. And shout out to J Cage for the $20 super chat. He said, peace and be one to all the fam. Torian, much love and appreciation for all that you for all of your content. I appreciate the contribution. Exactly, Jennifer. Toni Braxton has lupus, and that took a huge toll on her career. Like, she had to stop doing music for a while because of that. There was cases where she would just faint on stage and whatever because it was so bad. Melrose says, do we know if her or her dude got that? I'm not entirely sure of. But see, the thing is, we can't really say, because if she had lupus since 6, of course, when she was 6, that wasn't a thing. So the lupus could have attributed to her getting the stroke, or at least that's probably what they will say. But either way, I hope that she's going to, pull through this. She's probably they're going to probably give her a whole bunch of medication. I can almost guarantee that. But yeah, it's just unfortunate because she's so young. But yeah, let me go ahead now and Rob, I don't know if you're still in the chat. When I saw this headline right here, it says breaking Uvalde County jury to review criminal investigation into Rob school shooting. I was like, wait a minute, why is Rob trending right now? But I forgot that you're named after that school, or the school is named after you. But anyway, let's go ahead now and move on to the next story. I just wanted to share that, and I hope that she pulls through. So I wanted to share this story right here. Now, this is going to be one of several stories that you're going to get from this stream that's going to put out PC fragility on Front Street, probably like you've never seen it before. Or maybe you have seen it before, but haven't seen it in a while. So this story is coming from the Telegraph. And it says, white men no longer want to fight for a nation that scorns them. In other words, the numbers in the military for PC men is about to dwindle if it hasn't already. Now, I'm curious, how are they going to be scorned by this? Let me begin by making this point as clearly as possible. There is absolutely nothing worse for the combat effectiveness of a military than attempting to use recruiting as a social engineering program. It was reported in this newspaper recently how the U.S. Army has seen a dramatic fall in the number of white recruits, as the military.com website found that the Army fell 10,000 short of its 65,000 enlistment target. That's right, SD Johnson. I can't play the music right now, but if y'all in the chat, put some violins in there. Y'all gonna be putting the violins. Y'all gonna be putting the violin emoji in here for a couple of these stories. I'm telling you right now, so be prepared. Underpinning this drop was a dramatic decrease in white recruits from 44,042 in 2018 to just 25,070 in 2023, leading to the proportion of white recruits falling from 56.4% of all recruits in 2018 to just 44%. According to the U.S. Census from 2022, around 59% of all U.S. citizens were from white backgrounds. The U.S. military is 17% women, so the recruiting crisis is primarily among white men. Clearly, something inside the U.S. Army's recruitment system is failing, both in terms of targets being drastically missed and a failure to recruit effectively among the nation's largest ethnic group. The UK armed forces are in a similar depressing situation. Recruiting targets are consistently not met, but the main priority is not to get more people to join up. It is to get more non-white people and women to join up. Failure to meet recruiting targets is one thing. Peddling politically motivated and deeply flawed ideologically driven quotas is quite another. And another ill thought out and controversial move to attempt to fix the UK's military recruiting crisis. Last week, Defense Secretary Grant Shapps declared that women are the solution to the armed forces recruitment crisis. This is merely the latest apparent policy to attempt to force equality of outcome in the British military. Best illustrating this, here it is, y'all. This woke agenda. There it is, y'all. I wasn't expecting it, but hey, there it is. This makes me feel not even an ounce of anything for them, even more. is the Royal Air Force's shameful recruitment fiasco from 2022, when it was discovered that female and ethnic minority candidates were prioritized over white male recruits regardless of suitability. There is a strong case to be made that this breached employment law and was thus illegal. The head of the RAF at the time, Sir Mike Wixton, conveniently managed to avoid any real public scrutiny, though his reputation rightly lies in the ruins after trying to defend the shambolic and disgraceful policy. His successor, Sir Richard Knighton, has since apologized over the affair. I hate to break it to anybody reading this, but forcing equality of outcome on something as important as the nation's defense is not the solution to our recruiting crisis. Military housing and accommodation needs urgently improving. MOD contracts for poor service providers need to be cut and offered to be better managed contractors. Pay needs to rise in at least an average with other public sector bodies. It's if not far higher given the skill sets required and the risk to life, which we routinely ask our men and women in uniform to run on our behalf. The government needs to improve the offer and create working conditions more in line with expectations of the society of today, whilst balancing the need to retain combat lethality. There's a wider problem in society too. For a long time now, the disciples of affirmative action, something that's no longer there, and critical race theory, I'm telling you, they're using all the buzzwords today. All groups have been prioritized except one, to the point where it is often a serious disadvantage to be a white male. Oh, put the violins in the chat again. And shout out to Scoop 2003. It said, I understand us feeling like that. We got a reason they don't. And shout out to you for the super chat. Man, listen, the PC tears are just flooding over this. And shout out to Stay Positive for being a member for 17 months. Yes, put those violins in the chat. Y'all gonna break that violin emoji button today. I'm declaring it. A disadvantage to be a white male, particularly when it comes to getting a promotion or a job. Cry me a river. Cry me a stream. Cry me a lake. Cry me an ocean. Cry me a waterfall. Cry me a ravine. Another British example was the recent case of the TV station Channel 4, in which protests were made over the appointment of 5 new directors, 4 of whom were white. This was deemed to be too many, despite the fact that slightly more than 80% of British people are white. A U.S. example is the recent case of accounting firm PwC, which has belatedly been forced to allow white people apply for its internship scheme. It's not really a surprise that then that young white men have apparently become less willing to defend at risk of their lives a society which discriminates against them and blames them for all the evils of history, evils which they themselves had nothing to do with. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court has moved to end affirmative action in higher education. It should be eliminated in other areas too. Be careful what you ask for, because the last time y'all eliminated higher education with affirmative action, they ended up crying like 2 weeks later. So y'all better be very careful what you wish for. Y'all want to know what's so interesting? Y'all want to know what's going to be so interesting about the stories that y'all are going to hear today when it pertains to the white tears that are going to fall? Every last one of them are going to be at the fault of their own, not from not from another group of people, not from Black people, not from the South of the Borderian, not from the Asians, not from the Native Americans, or any other group that's not white. Every issue that they are dealing with are going to deal with in the videos, and not in the videos, in the topics that I talk about in this stream are going to come by their own. You'll see what I mean as we go forward. They have no one else to blame but themselves, because let's be real here. Who runs the military? It ain't us. But see, let people like Charlie Kirk tell it. We're getting all the advantages. I feel nothing. Y'all are gonna be saying I feel nothing a lot in this stream. Trust me on that. Let's move on to the next story. And now we got to talk about this buffoon. I hate we got to talk about him, but we got to talk him. As a matter of fact, the next 2 articles are about him. Ben Carson. Well, I might as well call him Carson because he sure is acting like Tucker Carlson with the statements he's been making. So Ben Carson, who is another bootlick who's hanging off of the 45 taint just like ramen noodles, told the Iowa crowd that America's history of slavery is nothing to be ashamed of as he campaigns for Donald Trump. Remember what I told y'all about who's worse, the grift or the grifter? He's one of the good ones, y'all. I hope y'all did the homework assignment and watched that movie. Like I said, I'm telling you, the parallels are there. Former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, also a position he should not have been in. And shout out to Darlene for the $1.99 super sticker. I appreciate it. Ben Carson suggested that slavery should not be a source of shame for America and dismissed the idea of existence of systemic racism while campaigning for Donald Trump on Thursday. Again, he's one of the good ones. When PC says they like black people like him, and they call him an American. They see, the thing is about the bootlick, they have to forego and completely shred all of their identity just to align themselves with them. Look at Nimrata. She went going out here going by Nikki. She has to shred her whole Indian identity just to align with them. Ramen Noodles up there tap dancing and boot licking for Trump every chance he gets, even though he gets insulted by this man, and he's shredding all of his dignity just to be with them. Ben Carson is no different. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. Listen, I'll be on the outside not looking in. That's how I see it. During an event in Iowa, Carson downplayed the significance of slavery in American history, emphasizing that various societies throughout history have grappled with the issue. And I bet you he couldn't point to one. You look back to the beginnings of this country and our founders, a lot of people are trying to denigrate them now, saying they were horrible people, maybe because some of them had slaves, and that America is a horrible place because we had slavery, Carson said. And mind you, he is spitting and vomiting all over his ancestors. Keep that in mind. Again, he's shredding his whole identity just to align with them. People who say stuff like that obviously don't have a good grasp of world history, because every society has to deal with slavery, and there are more slaves in the world today than there have ever been at any point in time, he added, before using human trafficking and sexual slavery as examples. And this guy's a doctor, y'all. I just want y'all to know, I wanted y'all to be aware of that in case you forgot. He also defended the U.S. by highlighting the Civil War as a unique instance of an uprising against slavery. We fought a bloody civil war to get rid of the evil institution, and that's what we should teach our children. Did y'all just notice the awkward pause I just gave? Now, this is coming off of what Nimrata said a couple weeks ago. He says, our history is nothing to be ashamed of. Carson, a retired neurosurgeon and someone who's probably in need of a transplant himself of the brain, who gained notoriety in 1987 for separating conjoined twins, served in Trump's cabinet from 2017 to 2021 after failing to outpoll him in the 2016 presidential race. He basically, Ramen Noodles basically did the same thing he did. I couldn't beat us, and let's join him. While he has acknowledged there always will be racism in the world in the past, and said he believes black people can work hard and rise above ignorant Americans. When he says ignorant Americans, who was he talking about? He won't say who. He won't say who. But, work hard and rise above ignorant Americans to escape it, because that's what you did. You didn't even do it. All this hard work that you did and all the success that you garnered, and you still act the way that you do. You're still seen the way that you are. And it's crazy because the people that have the most to say about him are the ones he's aligning himself with the most. I keep telling you every single time. The ones who get the wake-up calls are going to get it from the people who ask their kids every single day. I have yet to be wrong on that notion. People aspire to come here, even though you have all these people trying to denigrate our nation and say what a horrible place it is and that it is systemically racist. And all these people are being treated unfairly. If that were the case, why are so many people trying to get in here? If you looked at the news, Ben Carlson, if you opened your eyes, literally opened your eyes and stopped walking around here looking like Brock from Pokemon, then maybe you'd actually see why they're trying to get in here or why they're getting in. Don't come here. It's a horrible place. That's not what's going on, Carson extolled. Meanwhile, the Yale graduate who was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by former President George W. Bush in 2008 has often referred to enslaved people as immigrants. I remember when he said that. There were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships, worked even longer, worked even harder for less, but they too had a dream that one day their sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, great-grandsons, great-granddaughters might pursue prosperity and happiness in this land, Carson said during his first speech to HUD employees in 2017. He later walked back the comments on Facebook acknowledging that the slave narrative and immigrant narrative are two entirely different experiences, and slaves were ripped from their families and their homes and forced against their will after being sold into slavery by slave traders. However, Politico pointed out that the ideology was subscribed to by the highly regarded doctor long before he pivoted into politics. He echoed nearly the same words in 2000 in his 2000 book, The Big Picture, quoting his speech at a United Way conference in Alabama in 1997. Reminds you of when I talked about Nimrata when she says what she said about the Civil War, but they pulled up something from 2010 where she said the same thing. And shout out to AB Promotions for the 199. He says Torian B1. I appreciate it. I'm not even gonna waste y'all time or mine playing that video. I'll just take their word for it. But my goodness. I just want to remind y'all, this guy is a doctor. Shout out to Jay Cage. He said, Torian, not Brock from Pokemon. Yeah, Brock from Pokemon. Those who watch Pokemon as a kid know who Brock is and why his eyes. He says, bootlickers got a bootlick. Of course they got to do. They ain't got nothing else to do. And shout out to Blacklight Revelations for the $4.99. He says that he is matching AB Promotions. I appreciate it. But if y'all thought that was bad, remember I told you he had two articles. So let's go into this second article where he says, or he compared, and shout out to Lisa Cabrera because this is actually how I found out about this. He compared Donald Trump to King David in the Bible. Now, I'm not a heavily religious person, but when you start talking about and trying to compare people to people or biblical figures, now you've really gone off the deep end. Former HUD Secretary Ben Carson campaigns for Republican presidential candidate, former U.S. President Donald Trump at the Grace Baptist Church in front of a bunch of PC individuals, not a black-facing site except his, on January 11, 2024 in Marion, Iowa. Trump's campaign team is hosting several events throughout Iowa, with surrogates speaking in his place as the former president attends the closing arguments in the Trump Organization's civil fraud trial in New York. After years of relative silence, former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson is proving he is still out of pocket as ever. On Fox News Monday night, Carson compared former President Donald Trump to the biblical king of Israel, King David. Obviously, the anchors of Fox News are used to hearing some controversial opinions, but this hot take seemed to catch anchor Neil Cavuto off guard. Cavuto pressed him about the King comparison, to which Carson said, I don't know about King, but certainly he has some policies that are very worthwhile. Wait, what? Did I just read that? What did he say? I don't know about King, but certainly he has some policies that are very worthwhile. Somebody throw a tomato at this man and get him off the stage, please. For anyone following Carson's presidential run and his subsequent appointment to Trump's cabinet, none of this is particularly new. He has a knack for spontaneously busting into the most incomprehensible game of mad libs at any second. The famed neurosurgeon once compared believing in the separation of church and state to schizophrenia, so bringing the Bible into politics is not the craziest thing he's ever done or said. I wasn't even paying attention to the chat. I'm looking, I seen a whole bunch of tomato emojis in there. But yeah, I don't even know how to even break this one down, except that this guy is dumb. He's so smart, he's dumb. I'm sure many of us growing up have heard that phrase before. It definitely applies to him. Black Spider said Ben was a brain surgeon. Now he's working for Best. It sounds to me like Ben needs a brain surgeon ASAP. He needs a whole lobotomy. Again, disturbing behavior. Let's get off of Ben Carson and move on to the next story. My God. So this right here is going to be an update story about Daniel Penny. And shout out to DSB for the $5 super chat. He says Shalom Torian and family in the chat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see what they're talking about on here with Daniel Penny.
And the Marine veteran accused in the chokehold death of a homeless man on a New York City subway is now free on bail after being arraigned in court. Daniel Penny pleaded not guilty to one count of second-degree manslaughter and another count of criminally negligent homicide in connection with the death of Jordan Neely. Senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky joins me now, along with ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer, for more on this. Aaron, what's the latest on this case?
Daniel Penny walked into a courtroom on the 13th floor of this building, Diane. He came in wearing a dark navy suit, white shirt, red tie, walking ramrod straight, as you might expect of a Marine veteran, took his place at the defense table and promptly entered a not guilty plea to 2 criminal counts, second-degree manslaughter and a lesser count of criminally negligent homicide, both of those returned by a grand jury a couple of weeks ago in an indictment. There were no other statements that Penny made in court. He's released on a $100,000 bond, and there are a few conditions, same as before after his initial arrest. But in court documents, the Penny's made some statements to police indicating that he felt Jordan Neely was a threat. Came onto the train, the F train in Manhattan, and started throwing things. Penny is quoted telling police officers, that's when Penny decided to act, he says, on behalf of fellow passengers, put him in a chokehold that ultimately led to his death. And prosecutors made mention, Diane, that it's the duration of the chokehold that appears to have led to these criminal charges. Even after Penny stopped moving, prosecutors said in a court filing accompanying the indictment, Penny continued that chokehold until it was too late.
Now, Brian, Penny's attorneys say they're confident that he acted within the confines of the law. How do you think they're going to go about proving that in court?
Self-defense. I think that's the easiest and strongest argument that they have. Self-defense also affords the ability to protect a third party or someone else. So we've heard a number of Penny statements saying that Jordan Neely seemed to be aggressive towards the other patrons on the subway. And so he'll be able to claim that he's protecting them as well as himself. But the question of whether or not his actions were excessive is just going to be a difficult climb.
Now, a lot of this incident was caught on video. That's going to be a key piece of evidence in this case. Who do you think it helps more, though, the prosecution or the defense?
Right now, I think it helps the prosecution more because it gives us a timeline of the viewer being able to see when Jordan Neely is not moving anymore, and then the choke continues. Penny's got to explain why he continued that chokehold past the point of Neely no longer moving. If he can do that, the video is great for him. But if not, I think the prosecution has a better piece of evidence there.
So, Aaron, what are the next steps in this case?
Daniel Penny will return to this courthouse in October. That's the next hearing. And in the meantime, prosecutors today will start turning over evidence, including 911 calls, videotaped interviews with eyewitnesses that they took, the statements that Penny and others made to responding police officers on May 1st, the day that this happened. And here outside court, the defense attorney said they would be plotting their defense by appealing to subway riders. One of the defense attorneys said there's not a subway rider in Manhattan who hasn't experienced feeling threatened by someone who enters the train, and they're counting on that person to get onto the jury and find some reasonable doubt when it comes to these charges.
All right, so y'all just saw that right there. And by the way, this is a older video.
Yeah.
This is an older video. If y'all hear it like how it was sounding, this is from last year. I thought it was going to be a video from recent. So this is back a few months ago. What we really want to focus on is the actual headline right here, where it says the judge rejected Daniel Penny's bid to dismiss the charge in the NYC subway chokehold death. And let me just say this right here. I saw some people was leaving some comments in there in the chat where people were saying like, why was he saying like self-defense and everything like that? He's not saying that from the standpoint of he's agreeing about the self-defense. He's saying that's what the prosecutor is probably going to go with, which I'm not, which if you looked at it, you wouldn't be surprised that that's what they're going to try to lean with, because that's what they were trying to lean with when the whole thing started, when this whole thing kicked off. He's saying that that's what they're probably going to go with, not that he agrees with it. And yes, Alvin Bragg is trash. But let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and read the article. A judge denied Daniel Penny's motion to dismiss his involuntary manslaughter case over the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a subway car. The court has reviewed the cases cited by the defendant in light of the evidence presented and finds that here the evidence was legally sufficient to establish that the defendant acted with both recklessness and criminal negligence. Judge Maxwell Wiley said in this decision, pointing to testimony that the medical examiner that attributed to Neely's death to trauma to the neck and his movements associated with death in video footage. The medical examiner determined Neely was killed by a chokehold and his death was ruled a homicide. Penny's case will return to court on March 20th. The trial will occur no earlier than the fall. While we disagree with the court's decision not to dismiss the indictment, we understand that the legal threshold to continue even an ill-conceived prosecution is very low, said Penny's lawyers Stephen Razor and Thomas Kenneth. We are confident that a jury aware of Danny's actions in putting aside his own safety to protect the lives of his fellow riders will deliver a just verdict. Danny is grateful for the continued prayers and support throughout this difficult process. The former Marine choked Neely to death on a New York City subway car on May 1st, 2023. Penny's attorney argued that the victim, Jordan Neely, was insanely threatening at the time of the incident. Prosecutors argue that Penny maintained his chokehold on Neely's neck for 6 minutes, well past the point when Neely stopped purposeful movement. Penny has pleaded not guilty to the charges of second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide in connection with Neely's death. Video footage captured Penny holding Neely in a chokehold for several minutes. At some point, Neely stopped moving, but Penny continued to hold him for an extended period of time. And I hope they lean heavy on that part right there, to the fact that basically you was holding on to a dead body at that point. Assistant District Attorney Joshua Steinglass told the judge during Penny's initial appearance in court on May 12th. Penny remained on the scene to talk with the police following the incident. Some witnesses told police that Neely was yelling and harassing passengers on the train. Police sources had previously told ABC News that Penny was not specifically being threatened by Neely when he intervened, and that Neely had not become violent and had not been threatening anyone in particular. Penny's attorneys have said that he was defending himself and others when he put Neely into the chokehold that caused his death. Neely was homeless at the time of the incident. All I'm going to say is this. They better be very careful and tread very lightly how they handle this case. Because basically what you're saying is, if any situation like that is to occur, that anyone can just go on the train and just go and put someone into a chokehold and kill them. Yeah, that's basically what you're allowing. And then claim it as self-defense. This is the part right here where people like Charlie Kirk is saying that white men are under attack. They're under attack because they're not allowed to act like the barbarians that their ancestors were. When people say white people are under attack, that means that they can't get away with their Jim Crow fantasies. They won't say it, so I will. And Alvin Bragg, he got to go. I've been saying that for the longest, ever since the Maya Ponsetto case. He has got to go. I don't know what it'll take to get him up out of there, but he needs to be out of there somehow, some way before he gets a chance to be reelected, or worse, moved up. But let's move on to the next story. And y'all, get the next story. Remember I told y'all to keep y'all fingers close to that violin emoji? Get ready to start pressing it again, because now we are about to talk about Delta Airlines. Man, when I first heard about this story, I chuckled so hard, it damn near rivaled the Joker. So check this out. And I couldn't believe it either, but hey, in their world, I suppose this is a problem. Delta Airline faces backlash for style guide capitalizing black and brown and not white. You know what? I'm gonna put my violin emoji in the chat right now. I'm gonna join y'all. Really? This is a problem. Hey, y'all, this is considered anti-white, y'all. This is considered anti-white. Mind you, Delta, the CEO, is a white man. Going back to the initial story that I wrote, what did I say? If they're feeling so-called oppressed, it's coming from the people that look and identify as them, and not us. Delta Airlines has been the topic of heated discussions on social media, as some have taken issue with the carrier's decision to capitalize black and brown, but not white. The ordeal began after an alleged page from the airline style guide surfaced on Twitter. Under the heading of race and ethnicity, a style note reads, "Capitalize black and brown in Delta communications. Unlike black or brown, white should be lowercase." The news sparked debates surrounding the use of inclusive text and what the difference in capitalization means. Delta received backlash for the style note, with many individuals expressing anger and disappointment. Some even went as far as accused the airline of being racist. Some even went as far as said, "I'm going to boycott Delta." I was like, okay. I'm sure that they'll continue to make, where you decided to boycott, there's going to be thousands of others that's still going to travel through their airline. Others stated that the capitalization differences are a matter of grammar, with white being lowercase because it is a descriptive term rather than a race. In 2020, the Associated Press announced that it would begin to capitalize black when used in a racial, ethnic, or cultural sense, similar to how the terms like Asian and Latino are capitalized. John Dawadzewski, there you go. There's a ski. The organization's vice president for standards explained the reasoning behind the decision in the announcement. Again, another PC man, y'all, not us. People who are black have strong historical or cultural commonalities, even if they are from different parts of the world, and even if they now live in different parts of the world. That includes the shared experience of discrimination due solely to the color of one's skin. The global news agency Style Guide is the most widely used among journalists and media organizations. The Associated Press also stated that it would continue to lowercase white when used in these ways. White people generally do not share the same history and culture or the experience of being discriminated against because of skin color. We agree that white people's skin color plays into systemic inequalities and injustices, and we want our journalism to robustly explore those problems. But capitalizing the term white, as is done by white supremacists, risks subtly conveying legitimacy to such beliefs. Again, that statement I just read came from a PC man with a ski at the end of his name, so he's one of them. Hey, that sounds like victimhood mentality to me. You know how they always talk to us about being a victim and stop being a victim? I'm just saying. Delta Airlines has not yet released a statement regarding the situation. However, the ongoing discussion continues to highlight the complex discussion surrounding language and race. Now, here's the thing. They said this has been in since 2020, and they're just now getting outraged. Delayed reactions as far as I'm concerned. And I feel nothing for their tears. Nothing. Oh, Rob said people have been lowercasing in every society, although our time, all throughout time. Is this really that bad? They should just move on. The fact, again, they're making a mountain out of a molehill with this thing. That's why I told you there's going to be a couple of stories in here that's going to require y'all to throw the violin in the chat. Now, I believe that there is one more story that I'm gonna bring up that's going to require the violins again, but I'll let you know when we get there. But this is laughable. Like all the issues in the world, and this is what you and this is what you want to complain about. I guess this is the extent of being quote unquote anti-PC. Let's move forward, y'all. And we are doing another update. And this time we are talking about Josh Giddey in not so surprising news. He will not face charges as the police have now officially closed the investigation. I'm not shocked by this at all. They completely swept this under the rug. We tried to keep it out there as much as we possibly can, mainly because we was coming at Malika Andrews' neck. But I'm sure she probably did a bust an electric slide when she heard this. So Josh Giddey, he was the one that was, in case y'all forgot, the basketball player who was caught messing around with that underage girl. Now I got to say allegedly. And people put it on blast. And that's pretty much as far as it went. I truly believe that the parents were paid off. That's what I believe. Police in Newport Beach, California will not pursue charges against Oklahoma City Thunder guard Josh Giddey after closing an investigation into allegations that he had an improper relationship with an underage girl. According to a statement the department released Wednesday night, after a thorough and exhaustive examination, we have completed our investigation into information that was circulating on social media involving Josh Giddey, the statement read. Our detectives have reviewed all of the available information and were unable to corroborate any criminal activity related to Mr. Giddey. The allegations against Mr. Giddey surfaced on social media in late November. In a since deleted post, an anonymous social media user said a girl who was seen with Giddey in videos and photographs was a high school junior at the time. The social media account has since been deactivated. The Newport Beach police opened an investigation days after the allegations surfaced, releasing a statement on November 29th that said in part that the department was actively seeking additional information released to these allegations and pursuing all leads and evidence to obtain the facts of the case. The NBA was also looking into the allegations, and spokesperson Michael Bass told the Associated Press on Wednesday that the league is aware in the findings in the police inquiry and is continuing our review of the matter. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver did say, however, in early December that the league office's investigation would take a backseat to the Newport police's process. I wonder how much of a backseat Adam Silver and NBA would have took if this was, say, I don't know, a black man. Yet they completely scolded Kyrie Irving for posting a link on Twitter. Generally, we will work with law enforcement to the extent they will share with us information they have, Silver said during his Las Vegas news conference before the NBA's in-season tournament final. We can learn from that. We gather whatever information is available to us in working alongside a police department in this case or a DA, as long as they say we are not interfering with their investigation. We do what we can at the time, but generally we fall in behind any investigation and then go from there. Giddey, age 21, has declined to comment about the allegations, mainly because they didn't make him have to talk about it. In late November, Oklahoma City coach Mark D, because I can't pronounce his last name, referred to the allegations as a personal matter and declined further comment, other than saying the organization made the decision for Giddey to continue playing based on the facts that Thunder have. Giddey, who has been routinely booed in road games since the allegation surfaced, is averaging 11.8 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 4.6 assists per game for the current record of a 27-13 Thunder. What's going on, Moochie? And I agree with what you say. Double standards all the time. But like I said, all Kyrie did was post a link and that blew up. And they are still bringing that up. Shout out to Jerry Bedford for the $20 super chat. I appreciate it. He said, keep up the good work, Torin. I appreciate that. But yeah. So this story was pretty much gone as soon as it got started. It never took off. Not really, anyway. They stayed on John Morant. He got suspended before the season even got started. Now, granted, that was his own ignorance and stupidity, granted. But at the same time, they handled Josh Giddey with kid gloves. I even heard some people try to say, oh, people don't really know who he is. And your point is the amount of excuses that they came up with for this guy. But guess what? That means now we just have to keep him under a huge microscope because that's what they would do to us. I'm just saying. Even with the pictures, you know what? Let me keep it moving. Let me move on to the next story. Now, remember, I had brought up Michael Jackson earlier, so this is a bit of, I guess you could say, update news. In case y'all are unaware, they are coming out with a Michael Jackson biopic, and I'm excited to see that. As a huge Michael Jackson fan, I'm so glad that they casted his nephew to portray his nephew, who was Jermaine Jackson's son, by the way, to play him. I've seen like video clips of him rehearsing, and he has the moves down to a T. I'm talking about the mannerisms and everything. I think they're going to handle this great. Got Antoine Fuqua, who is directing it, amazing director, but it has finally got a release date. So the Michael Jackson biopic that is directed by Antoine Fuqua will be released April 18th, 2025. That is the official release date of the film. I'm glad you know that they are going to be taking their time with this because you have to handle this thing delicately. I have no clue what's going to be all in it. I just hope that this is a very well-told story and it's a very well-rounded story. It's not a one-sided story because we know how this media is. But you know what? I hope in the biopic that they actually do incorporate how biased that media was when Michael Jackson was alive, just so, because really, if you want to be honest with yourselves, if this movie needed a villain, the media definitely would be it. A whole entity, the media would be the villain of this story. Let's just be clear here. And also another update that came from the movie is that they've casted a young actor, this little boy, to be young Michael. Now, there was some controversy because a lot of people saying, he looks kind of light-skinned to play this part. Look, when they did the Jackson's American Dream back in 1992, the little boy that they cast was actually biracial. A lot of people didn't even know that. Maybe a lot of people did, but they didn't care. So the boy, as a matter of fact, the boy that they cast to play young Michael, like before they started to really like perform, actually looks like the boy that they cast back in the 90s. They actually kind of look related when I saw that. Like I said, I don't know all of what's going to be in here, but like I said, just take your time with this because as a Michael Jackson fan, almost teeter-tottering onto the stan category, I'm going to literally critique the hell out of this movie in a way that I don't do when I do my other movie reviews. So that is the update when it comes to this. They cast the little boy to play young Michael, and we have a release date of April 18th, 2025. So that means they're still in early production. Uchi said his nephew does sound like him. Yeah, I've seen his nephew sing. His nephew has a very good singing voice, and he does sound like him to the point where he could. Where I don't know if they're going to or not. I wouldn't be mad if they did, but if he decides to sing with his own voice, I think he could pull off sounding like his uncle. But if they wanted to use a track, I don't think anybody would be upset. It's just as long as he's able to pull off the moves and the mannerisms. So That's that update right there, and I'm going to be following this as closely as possible. So the next story right here is another update, and this could fall into the Operation Protect the White Boy at this point, where you have, who remembers last year when you had those 6 degenerates torture, and that's putting it lightly, those 2 black men down in Mississippi. Who remembers that? Well, they ended up delaying their sentencing. Now, they've already been found guilty. They've already been found guilty and convicted, but they keep delaying their sentencing in the crime and what they committed. And like I said, torture is putting it lightly. A federal judge has, for the second time, postponed sentencing for 6 former Mississippi degenerates who pleaded guilty to a long list of state and federal charges for torturing, and again, I put that lightly, 2 black men. Sentencing had been set to begin on January 16th, which was 3 days ago, but a court hearing schedule shows that U.S. District Judge Tom Lee has pushed back sentencing to March 19th. You're talking a whole 2 months from now. In October, he granted motions from some former officers to delay sentencing after their attorneys said they needed more time to evaluate sentencing reports and prepare objections. For what? What, they scared that when they go into that prison that they're going to have the same thing happen to them that they did to those 2 men? They should fear worse than that. The men admitted in August to subjecting Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker to numerous acts of racially motivated violent torture. In a January 2023 episode, a group of 6 degenerates burst into a home without a warrant and assaulted Jenkins and Parker with, listen to this, y'all, stun guns, a sex toy, and other objects. That's why I said torture is putting it lightly. These 6 entities sodomized these 2 black men. When I tell you they are their ancestors, this is just the tip of the iceberg. After a mock execution went awry when Jenkins was shot in the mouth, they devised a cover-up that included planting drugs and a gun. False charges stood against Jenkins and Parker for months. The conspiracy unraveled after one officer told the sheriff he had lied, leading to confessions from the others. Former Rankin County Sheriff's deputies Brett McAlpin, Hunter Elward, Christian Dedman, Jeffrey Middleton, and Daniel Opdyke, and former Richland City Police Officer Joshua Hartfield, who was off duty during the assault, pleaded guilty to numerous federal and state charges, including assault, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. They agreed to prosecutor recommended sentences ranging from 5 to 30 years, although the judge isn't bound by that agreement. Time served for separate convictions at the state level will run concurrently with a potentially longer federal sentences. The charges followed an investigation by the Associated Press that linked some of the deputies to at least 4 violent encounters with black men since 2019 that left 2 dead and another with lasting injuries. As you can see, y'all, this is a routine here. I can only imagine what they did to the other men, even including those 2 that died. AB said, so one of them had somewhat of a conscience. Listen, he had a conscience because he was trying to get a lesser charge or a lesser sentencing. But he was still there. Joseph said, yet they wonder why we don't look forward to interacting with them in any way. Exactly. And try to look at us like we're like the 2 or 3 headed Hydra. When you got stories like this floating around out here. Exactly, Jay Barrett. This is Mississippi, the same state where Brett Favre is the reigning welfare king. And speaking of Brett Favre, I had heard something yesterday in a podcast that I was listening to. Now, I'm no fan of Taylor Swift whatsoever, at all. Not at all. However, whoever her PR person is, I have to give them kudos for the clapback, and it was an epic clapback that she gave, or that they gave, to Brett Favre. So basically what happened was Brett Favre had said something along the lines of something about Taylor Swift. I forgot exactly what it was. Some of y'all in the chat might have heard it, but in case y'all didn't, basically he said something about Taylor Swift, like, you know, making a bunch of money and making millions of dollars or taking money or something like that. And the PR person basically came back and said something along the lines involving how he stole a whole bunch of money. Let me see if I can find what exactly it was, because that was an epic clapback. I wouldn't even have thought of that. That was hilarious. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, it has something to do with her and dating Travis Kelce, which all of us, I can be honest, are tired of hearing about. Oh man, for some reason I cannot find it. But I know I heard it yesterday and it was hilarious. But anyway, y'all just have to take my word for it. It was funny. I thought it was funny. But yeah, they are prolonging the sentencings of these 6 degenerates for a reason. They want us to forget. Now, just keep in mind, they said March 19, 2024. Just keep that in mind when that March rolls around. Next up, Nimrata, y'all, because you know we ain't calling her Nikki in 2023. I'm just saying, we're not calling her that. So Nimrata decided that, you know what, it wasn't enough for me to make the comments that I made about the Civil War and, you know, how it all started and whatnot. Let me go ahead and double down and say that the U.S. has never been a racist nation. So she joins the ranks of Tim Scott, Kamala Harris, and now her. And also Ron the Snowflake, because he said it too, shortly after she said it. Nimrata Randhawa. Republican presidential candidate Nimrata defended her comment that the United States has never been a racist country Thursday, saying she believes the country's intent was to do the right thing. So doing all of this at the expense of us was doing the right thing. Like I said, left wing, right wing, 2 wings attached to the same buzzard. Randhawa said at a CNN town hall moderated by anchor Jake Tapper that she had to deal with plenty of racism as a daughter of Indian immigrants growing up in a rural town in South Carolina, but she is happy that her parents never told her that they live in a racist country. Tapper asked her if she stood by the remarks she made during a Tuesday interview on Fox and Friends that the country has never been racist, considering the country's history with slavery, including that protections for slavery were written into the Constitution, and that her home state of South Carolina seceded from the country ahead of the Civil War, at least in part to defend slavery. Nimrata cited the part of the Declaration of Independence that states that all men are created equal and their right to life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. They weren't talking about black men when they said it. Remember, we were still considered to be 3/5 of a human being. In a lot of instances, we still are. When you look, it said all men are created equal. I think the intent was to do the right thing, she said. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we are going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally, she added. As we went through time, they fixed the things that are not all men are created equal. Keep in mind, she's saying this as a woman who was born in South Carolina. She was the governor for the state of South Carolina. She was still governor in 2015. Tell me in the chat, what happened in 2015? Can the people in the chat tell me collectively what event happened in South Carolina in 2015 when she was still governor? RD was the first person to say it. Albeit she mentioned their last name, but we'll accept it. Dylan Roof. Keep in mind, South Carolina still to this day doesn't have a hate crime law. You would think that they would have had one before Dylan Roof, or at the very least after what he did, but they still don't have one. And she was the governor, which means she could have handled that because that was considered a state thing, but she chose not to. Nimrata said developments to make everyone equal, including establishing women's rights to vote, happened over time, but she refuses to believe that the premise of forming the country was based on racism. A spokesperson for Nimrata emphasized, following her comments on Fox from Tuesday, the difference between calling the U.S. a racist country and recognizing racism existence. America has always had racism, but America has never been a racist country, the spokesperson said. Haley said, Nimrata said Thursday that telling brown and black children, y'all, there they go, and notice they put brown before black children, that they live in a racist country would mean telling, that means she put her people before us, would mean telling them that they do not have a chance to succeed. But she said racism does not define what someone is able to do in the country. We have way too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. I don't feel like reading anymore. Just keep that in mind going forward. And again, another person who had to completely shed her whole identity. I'm talking about this woman literally doesn't go by her real name. She's gotten a nose job. Her hands are the size of tentacles. She refuses to acknowledge what the Civil War was about. She says America's never been a racist nation. She barely did anything when it came to what happened with Dylan Roof. When that came down to removing that Confederate flag, she moved like a sloth. She's pathetic. She is pitiful. And a sorry excuse for a human being. Now, remember when I told y'all to get ready to have y'all hands touching or your fingers touching that violin one more time? Get ready, because here we go. Now, if this, what I'm about to read to you, is not the biggest piece of PC fragility ever, even more so than the other two stories that I gave you, this one right here really takes it home. So this one is dealing with the Oscars. And shout out to Jay Cage, excuse me, for the $5 super chat again. He said, Torian, she's looking like the lady from The Boys and Gen V. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Victoria Newman, the head popper. I can see it. And she's corrupt too. And she's also a politician. Go figure. I'm glad you acknowledged that. So this is involving the Oscars, y'all. Now, listen to how ridiculous this is. In an open letter, Jewish entertainers slam exclusion of Jews from Oscar diversity push. Wait a minute. And before I go any further, shout out to SD Johnson for the $10 super chat, violins and fire emojis. I appreciate it. Wait a minute. Don't y'all run Hollywood? Why are you upset that you feel you're being excluded? In what aspect? Whether you got nominated for an award or not, or won or not, you run it. You run the industry. How are you being excluded? Really? Over 250 Jewish celebrities and entertainers signed an open letter to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences on Tuesday, criticizing the organization for leaving Jews out of its diversity and inclusion efforts for underrepresented communities. Jewish people being excluded from the Motion Picture Academy's representation and inclusion standards is discriminating against a protected class. At least they now acknowledge they're a protected class by invalidating their historic and genetic identity, said the letter first reported on by the New York Times on Tuesday. This must be addressed immediately by including Jews in these standards, but you run the industry. The letter read in reference to sweeping eligibility reforms laid out by the Academy in the late 2020 to add a diversity component for the Oscar award, specifically in the Best Picture category. Now, in case y'all are unaware, and I think I talked about this, the Oscars has now said that in order for a film to get nominated in their Best Picture category, they have to have at least one lead or supporting actor who is not white in there in order for them to get some kind of Best Picture nominee or something along those lines. I think I did talk about that. Among the signatories of the letter were actor and comedian, if you want to call him either one of those, Michael Rappaport, who made a high-profile visit to Israel last month and continues to be an outspoken advocate of Israel online. David Schwimmer of Friends fame, actor-producer Josh Gad, actress Deborah Messing, comedian and actress Eliza Schlesinger, as well as acclaimed TV writer and producer Marta Kaufman, the co-creator of Friends. The reforms intended to encourage diversity and equitable representation on screen and off and took this effect this month, and the changes pertain to gender, sexual orientation, disability, race, and ethnicity. For a film to be eligible for Best Picture, at least one of the lead actors or significant supporting role must be from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. Jewish was not listed as an underrepresented group or on the Academy's list, although on other underrepresented race or ethnicity category was included. The Film's Academy also established 4 broad representation categories in general inclusion: on screen, among the crew, at the studio, and opportunities for training and advancement in other aspects of the film's development and release. The letter, organized by the Hollywood's Bureau of the Group Jew in the City, a nonprofit organization that works to advocate for accurate Jewish representation in depiction in media, said that the absence of Jews from underrepresented groups implies that Jews are overrepresented in films, which is simply untrue. But again, going back to the initial statement, you run the industry. It also emphasized that Judaism is not only a religion, but also an ethnicity. There it is, y'all. There it is. I was waiting for this line right here. I was waiting for it. Let me read it again. It also emphasized that Judaism is not only a religion, but also an ethnicity. While we applaud the Academy's efforts to increase diverse and authentic storytelling, an inclusion effort that excludes Jews is both steeped in and misunderstands anti-Semitism, said the letter. It erases Jewish peoplehood and perpetuates myth of Jewish whiteness, power, and that racism against Jews is not a major issue or that it is a thing of the past. Keep in mind, people like Michael Rappaport and Juliana Margulies had nothing but contempt to say about Black people these last couple of months. Ask me how I feel about this. Now, here's the thing. Let's hypothetically say the Academy going forward includes them in. Guess what's going to end up happening? They're going to expect to win. So it starts off with, oh, we're getting a knowledge, even though you run the industry, we're getting nominated now. But if I don't win, I'm going to come right back at you and say, why didn't we win? I'm telling you, that is probably what will come next if they go through with this. The letter also addressed the current wave of anti-Semitism sweeping across the United States, noting that anti-Semitic incidents were up almost 400% since October 7th, when thousands of Hamas-led terrorists invaded southern Israel from the Gaza Strip, killing some 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and taking 240 hostages in brutal, widely documented atrocities. Since then, global incidents of anti-Semitism have risen noticeably, according to researchers from the UN, Human Rights Watch, and the Anti-Defamation League. I'm going to kind of skip through all the rest of that right there, because then it just goes into their little backstory, which I don't really care about. Yeah. So violins and tomatoes, y'all. Violins and tomatoes is what I give this story. That is what I give this story. Now, it's funny, when black people were doing that Oscar so white thing back in 2014, which about 10 years, where were they then? Where were they then? Nowhere to be found. This year, if you've noticed, at one time, it was a thing where if you spoke just anything about them, they would label it anti-Semitism. But if you've noticed now, a lot of them have dug a hole so deep for themselves that saying something about them, even in a non-negative way, it kind of it doesn't even affect people anymore. People aren't shook to say anything about them now, because they have, as we come with this terminology, they have crashed out. A lot of people do not take them seriously anymore. Shout out to AB Promotions for the $1.99 super chat. He says, "We don't care," in Stephen A's voice. Right. I really don't. I do not. Moving on. So this right here is another update story, and it is involving Payton Gendron, the degenerate who decided he was going to go into the Tops grocery store and delete a bunch of black people because he felt like it and because he didn't like black people. Well, it looks like he's about to make history as the first person to receive the death penalty. Now, I don't think it's been set in stone yet, but they are pushing hard for it because, as you know, New York does not have capital punishment. It does not have the death penalty, but they are trying their hardest to pull some strings in order for him to be the first. And I said back when he did it, I said he most definitely deserves to receive the death penalty. But I said, I don't know how far that's going to go because I know that New York does not honor it. But they are pulling strings to make it happen because according to this, it says on May 12th, 2024, the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, announced that it will seek a death sentence for Payton Gendron, the then 18-year-old who killed 10 black people at the Tops supermarket in Buffalo, New York in 2022. All I'm going to say is this: good. And don't take so long to do it because Dylan Roof is still on death row. And we're almost 10 years out from when he did what he did. I'm not going to read the whole article. Everything that I needed was in the first couple. It was like in the first couple of sentences. Oh, well, it'll be much deserved. And I hope that when he gets the lethal cocktail, that it is slow, intense, and painful. The only thing I hate about when they do the death sentence for people who get the death penalty is that it takes so long for it to actually happen. Remember what happened with the murderers from down in Texas, the ones who dragged that black man back in the 90s? They did not give him the lethal cocktail until 2019. You're talking about 20 years after he was sentenced. Not when they did it, but after he was sentenced in 99. That's the only thing I hate, is that it takes so long for that process to kick in. But if New York can pull this off, that's gonna set a precedence. Let's move on to this story. Now, I know some of y'all was waiting for me to get on this one. This con scam artist right here, Roda Osman, aka the Brick Lady, aka everybody, well, for the most part, with a functioning brain knew she was lying, got been exposed, honestly, as being the fraudstress that she is. After racking up over $42,000 of a GoFundMe that was worth $25,000, I believe that she is now on the run. And those who had all that smoke for people last year when this happened are quiet, or they're trying to explain themselves or try to wiggle their way out of it by doubling and quadrupling down like a one conscious Lee. Man, that dude is pathetic. I'm sure some of y'all have seen some of the videos. Shout out to Kid Gravity, because he actually did a live stream talking about him earlier today. It's absolutely ridiculous how much he is crashing out over this situation. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just play the actual news clip.
At the center of a viral video who claimed a man threw a brick at her head because she would not give him her phone number is now wanted by Houston police. This story got national attention after that woman live streamed what she claimed was the aftermath on Instagram and started a GoFundMe. Only KPRC2's Bryce Newberry is talking with the prosecutor on this case tonight. He joins us live near the Galleria with the latest. Bryce.
Daniela, Houston police got called to this street in September, and when they arrived, the woman seen in that viral video told them that an Uber driver threw a brick at her head and then tried to kidnap her. But tonight, she has become the focus of this criminal investigation because Houston police say the surveillance footage captured by cameras on this street doesn't match her story.
Yo, this man just hit me in my face with a brick, and all these black men just watched.
This video, with more than 1 million likes on the Shade Room's Instagram page, captured the moments after what appeared to be a brutal attack in West Houston.
Y'all gonna let a man hit me in my face?
The woman is 33-year-old Roda Osman.
What have I ever done to anybody in my life to deserve this?
Seen here in tears in a hospital gown.
She told the detective that responded that she was hit in the head with a brick after she refused to give her phone number to a guy on the street.
And was that verified by any of the evidence that detectives looked at?
No, that was not verified.
Harris County prosecutor Keith Houston says surveillance videos from that early September morning show Osman hitting a man first.
So she's the one she was the aggressor.
She was the aggressor, yes.
And it was a water bottle that hit her, not a brick?
He did have a water bottle in his hand, and we think that's what left the mark.
According to court documents, she asked someone else to launch this GoFundMe for her recovery, raising more than $42,000. But as the story went viral, a blogger on TikTok called police, alerting them to this 2020 GoFundMe, which claimed a vicious assault by a security guard in Minneapolis.
Detective Thornton verified with Minneapolis police that there was no assault done at that time. It was completely fictional.
Prosecutors allege theft by deception and believe she would have received all that money had the campaign not been shut down.
The violence that I have suffered since September 3rd is just unbelievable. I can't even believe I'm here. They try to leave me for dead.
In an Instagram story posted Wednesday, Osman addressed those who have doubted her.
I actually have things going on in my life. I actually have real ways to make money. I don't have to get a GoFundMe for money. I actually can earn income because I'm actually educated and I actually am talented.
And tonight, a spokesperson for GoFundMe telling KPRC2 GoFundMe has zero tolerance for the misuse of our platform. The fundraiser has been removed from the platform. All donors have been refunded, and Roda Osman has been banned from using the platform for any future fundraisers. Osman did not respond when I reached out to her on Instagram this evening. Tonight, she is wanted here in Harris County on that theft charge. Anyone with information on her whereabouts can report that to Houston police. We're live near the Galleria. I'm Bryce Newberry, KPRC 2 News.
Like someone said in the chat, she probably has to be one of the dumbest criminals in existence. What I really hate about this story is the amount of a rift. And someone said it, I think it was Jay Barrett that put it in there. She did this and it kicked off that again, or should I say reignited, because it's not like it's just started. It reignited that pointless, shameless gender war that's been going on with black men and black women for God knows how long at this point. It's absolutely ridiculous. You had people online saying, oh, black men are this, black men are that, all this, that, and the third. And I'm sitting and saying to myself, I didn't really speak on this whole situation until a little bit later because I wanted to wait and see what else was going to come out. Because I said something about this just doesn't seem right to me at all. If you got hit in the face with a brick, how were you even able to function? You would be laid out, concussed, probably damn near dead somewhere. And your face wouldn't even look like that. If anything, it looked like she got stung by a wasp or had an allergic reaction. That's what it looks like. It looked like she had an allergic reaction to something. Maybe something she ate. I don't know. But to get hit in the face with a brick, that is a lie. And I believe that they interviewed the person that she was talking to, the guy that she was talking to. And apparently she got into it with him. She hit him and he hit her back with a water bottle. Now, we all know a water bottle could not do that to someone's face. It's no way. A water bottle is plastic. Even with the water in it, even if you tried to hit someone as hard as you could, it would not do that. The most it would do if you hit them hard enough is it might leave a bruise, but not what she showed. And what she showed definitely doesn't look like she got hit with a brick. And shout out to AW1 for the super chat. Said what a Torian, and yes, she's dumb. And also shout out to AB Promotions. He sent the super chat as well, and also with somebody else. William Aron. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Thank you for the super chat as well. This woman sat up there and blatantly lied to get sympathy, to get views, to get clicks, but moreover to get money. This woman got $42,000, over $42,000 in a GoFundMe. Luckily, she did not turn it off and get the money. And they were able to refund everybody. They said they did enough digging and saw that she had another GoFundMe from a couple years ago. This woman is a con artist to the highest degree. And she did it at the expense of black men. And also at the expense of black women. See, she knew the game. She knew how it worked. Let me go ahead and make this up and say a black man hit me with a brick, garner all the sympathy from black women and get money off of them. Because technically, I bet you most of the people that donated her were probably black women. So she finessed the hell out of y'all, to those who donated, and the simps as well. But she knew exactly what she was doing. It was like, it's crazy. Like, you literally had a couple months prior to this, you had Carly Russell out there claiming she got kidnapped. And then you got this woman turn right around a couple months later saying she got hit with a brick. No bruising, no blood. That was another thing I asked you when I first spoke about this last year. No bruising, no blood, none of that. You're talking, you're coherent, you're not even at least dizzy. But people, unfortunately, allowed themselves to fall for it because she said it was a black man that did it and that there were black men standing around watching and laughing at her. She knew this wouldn't go far if she said a white man did it. She knew she wouldn't go far if they were to say a South of the Borderian did it or that an Asian man did it. They probably wouldn't even believe her. But because she said it was a black man, it instantly became glorified and believable. Because for how long have they said that black men are such degenerates? Black men are so violent? black men don't protect black women. How long has that been floating around? So she played on that. This was all strategic. She had this premeditated. And now she's on the run and they're trying to find her. And I hope they do. I can't say much more what should happen to her when they get her in custody. But I'll say this, whatever does happen to her, it'll be well deserved. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is not a news article, but I wanted to talk to y'all about the community tab post that I made earlier. So how many people in the chat saw the community tab post that I made? Let me zoom it in a little bit so y'all can see it a little bit better. How many people saw the community tab post that I made earlier today? And shout out to Savion Draco 0 for the being a member, a 2-month member. He says, I hope they catch her and throw away the key. Almost definitely. They definitely need to, for sure. Okay. So for those of y'all who didn't see it, I put a community post up today on my community tab where I basically was saying, I'm gonna actually read it to y'all. I said, what's going on, family? I wanted to test something out when it comes to my uploads. It came to me a few hours out of the blue, but I figured this is a way to have you guide the direction of the videos that I upload. So basically what I plan on doing is polled/voted videos. As many of you or may not know, the community tab allows polls to be made based on likes or dislike via the meter. The videos are already recorded, but this will determine what you want to see more of for the upload that week. So I basically broke down as an example of how it would go. So say that I have a Triple P video coming up, a bed bucking video coming up, a Blackaren video coming up, and a random video coming up. So say that if I have that all there as a poll and y'all vote for it, and the Triple P video gets the majority of the votes, that will be the video that goes up on Monday. If the next one up was a Blackaren video and that had 30% of the vote, that will go up on Tuesday. Wednesday is the We Fall Back series, so that by default is always going to be that video until that series is over. Then we jump to Thursday, which will be the bed bucking video, and then Friday will be that video, and then of course there'll be a fifth one for Saturday. Now the only thing I hate is that on these polls they only give you 5 slots. So what I was thinking about doing is that I might just do videos Monday through Saturday and then let Sunday be like a rest day unless I decide to do an impromptu live on that day for whatever reason. And the poll will go up on that Sunday. And I also like this too because then it gives my audience, and shout out to Till Dog 12 for the $2. It gives my audience an opportunity to see what videos is coming up that week before I even upload them. So now you'll be able to see, oh, now we get an idea of what he's going to talk about, but now it's up to me to determine, okay, what video do I want to see first? Which one do I want to see second? Which one do I want to see third? So on and so forth. I already have the videos for the upcoming week lined up, and I have it set to schedule to be available for y'all to see the poll on Sunday at 8 o'clock. And I'll run the poll maybe from 8 a.m. to about 5, because I figure that's enough time for people to see it and vote for it and go from there. I hope y'all are understanding what it is that I'm putting out there. I wanted to explain it because some people may be confused by it, but that's basically, you know, what it is. So when y'all see it on Sunday at 8 a.m. or whenever it is that you see it, you'll have 5 videos lined up. I've already recorded them, and it's up to you to choose based on whatever it is you want to see. And then based on those percentages is the order that the videos will be uploaded that week. Of course, the most liked will be going up first, then Tuesday. Of course, like I said, Wednesday is the series video. So by default, I don't put Wednesday there. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And if there's any impromptu lives, those still happen the same time at 12 p.m. The upload times are not going to change. It's still going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time. And like I said, this is a way for y'all to get more engaged. And y'all, basically, what's happening is not only are y'all able to see the videos that are about to come up, but y'all are actually able to choose the direction in which the videos are going up. So granted, like I said, I record them in a certain order, but that doesn't mean they're going to be ordered. They're not going to be uploaded in the order that I record them, if that makes sense. I'm leaving that in your hands. And it's also another way for my subscribers to really engage as well. That, like I said, that was just something that came to me. And also, in case y'all are unaware, a lot of reaction channels do this a lot. Like whenever they want to watch like a movie or a show, they leave it into the hands of their audience. They ask their audience, what do you want to see me watch? And they put down in a poll a list of shows or a list of movies, and whatever show or movie that the audience chooses more of is the one that they watch. That's how a lot of reactor channels who do shows and movies, that's how it's easy for them to gauge what to put up with their subscribers, especially if you have a large subscriber base. Helps out a lot. I have over 65,000 subscribers, so this will definitely help me out a lot. And it also tells me, also based on those type of the votes, what to do more of, what y'all like to see more of. DSA said that's giving us way too much power. But hey, it is what it is. Because I figure like this: if they wanted to see that video more of that video, then that's what they want. That's why I'm leaving the poll open like from 8 to 5. I said that way that by that time many people will have already seen it or should have seen it. But that's pretty much it right there. That was the last thing I wanted to show. Shout out to everybody who came through to the stream today. I greatly appreciate everybody who came through. Let me go ahead and announce this now. Tomorrow, y'all, make sure that y'all schedules are clear at 12 noon Eastern time, because I will be doing a live interview with Black Alpha Network so we can go over his experience of what happened down in Columbia, South Carolina at that state house. Tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time. I'm gonna put the window up after this stream is over. That'll be after the 11 a.m. premiere video. So definitely make sure when I put that up that y'all are locked in, because y'all are not going to want to miss that. I definitely can't wait to hear what he has to say about it. He's already talked about it on his platform. For those of y'all who are subscribed to him, probably have already seen it, but he's going to be on my channel tomorrow to discuss it in more detail. Shout out to everybody who contributed to the stream. J. Cage, Scoop 2003, Stay Positive, Darlene, AB Promotions, Blacklight Revelations, DSB, Jerry Bedford, SD Johnson, AB Promotions, William Arant, AW1, Savion Draco 0, and Till Dog 12. I'm very appreciative of everybody, all of the subscribers, all of the members, all the people over on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, anywhere else I might have forgot. Shout out to you as well. We will be back on here tomorrow with the 11 a.m. Video, and also the midday stream featuring Black Alpha Network. Y'all be safe out there. Y'all stay warm because it is cold outside. Be safe and be one.